can start. And Anais, too nice to meet you. So good luck to you. You can start.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Um, I'm Benjamin Effer, Director of Rheinisches Studienkolleg, which is located in Bonn, Germany, and also in Berlin. Today, I want to talk about the foundation year Studienkolleg in general, and of course, provide information about our institute and the courses we are offering and how we can help you to study at a German public university eventually. So we will start with general information. What is Studienkolleg? Take a look at the structure and the curriculum. How long will the course last? Which subjects do you have? Then I will explain about the so-called FSP examination, Feststellungsprüfung. Compare public and private Studienkollegs. Maybe you already know about Studienkollegs in general and the ones that are connected to the public universities. So the difference between these two, I want to quickly talk about, provide some additional information, and last but not least, present how our courses are set up and how you can join our courses. So what is Studienkolleg? It is a foundation year, preparatory year for students without direct access to German universities. Mostly, these are students who did their secondary school outside of the European Union. So, most students from your region who completed secondary school and did not yet study at a university, they need to take part in that foundation year. It helps to bridge the gap between international qualifications, such as yours, and the German university entrance requirements. So by the end of the foundation year, you are on the same level like the German secondary school students after completing their final year. Depending on what you want to study, you would need to take part in a different course at Studienkolleg. You can see here in the presentation that we have different fields. The T-Kurs for technical majors, the M-Kurs for medical majors, the W-Kurs for business and economics. The W stands for Wirtschaft, which is German for economics. G-Kurs for humanities. Here the G stands for Geisteswissenschaften. And S for languages. If you want to study in the linguistic field, S is for Sprachen. So by completing Studienkolleg, you will qualify for a specific branch of university studies. T-Kurs, for example, for engineering, computer science, natural sciences. The M-Kurs for pharmacy, medicine, biology, and so on. The public Studienkollegs are connected to public universities. And there's a limited number of public Studienkollegs per federal state. If you know a bit about Germany, it is divided into multiple federal states. Each of these federal states has more universities. There could be 10, 20, 30 universities within one federal state. And they will invite their students to take part in the same public Studienkolleg. Unfortunately, as there are many more universities than public Studienkollegs, the places at these public Studienkollegs are limited, and quite often students apply to our private Studienkolleg because they were not able to pass the entrance exam at one of these public Studienkollegs. Because these exams are competitive, they only take the top students. If we take a look at the structure and the curriculum of Studienkollegs in general, the duration is typically 1 year or 2 semesters, and you need the German level B2 to start the course. In reality, the courses usually take 9 to 10 months, and then you prepare for university access, because once you get your certificate, you still need time to apply to the universities, wait to get the admission, and then actually after 1 year from the start of Studienkolleg, you are entering your bachelor degree program at university. We already mentioned the FSP exam. This is actually not one exam, but usually 4 exams, and it stretches over 2 to 3 weeks. Which exams will you take when you have the FSP? It depends on the subjects that you are taking within your specific course. Let's take a look at the column in the middle, the subjects. The M-Kurs, as I said, for medical studies and related fields, you will have the subjects German, biology, chemistry, and physics. 4 subjects, and accordingly, you will have 4 exams during the FSP. The T-Course, the technical one, you will have German, mathematics, chemistry, and physics. As you can see, you won't have biology as part of that pathway, but instead you will have mathematics, which makes sense for technical degrees, of course. The W-Course for economics and business studies, you will have German, English, social studies, and economics. Last but not least, the G and S course for humanities and linguistics, you will have German, German literature, history, and social studies. There's the option of waiving the German part of the FSP exam if you reach C1 level and pass a C1 exam during Studienkolleg. And we try at our institute to have everyone pass a C1 level so they can reduce the actual number of exams to 3 and not take the 4th exam in German. So for that reason, students usually reach the German level C1 during Studienkolleg. That's the one they need to be able to speak when they access university afterwards. So the FSP examination, it happens at the end of the public Studienkollegs as well as the end of the private Studienkollegs. Main difference is the pathway toward. If we take a look at the left arrow, you can see that there are the entrance tests at the public Studienkolleg, which basically test your German skills. And some public Studienkollegs also do mathematics. Now, if you apply to a private Studienkolleg such as ours, usually there's no entrance test necessary. At least we don't do that. You just apply with your secondary school certificate or your current marks if you didn't yet complete school, and that's it. At the start of the second semester, students will take part in pre-examinations. So during the first semester, obviously, our teachers prepare students specifically for these pre-exams. And passing the pre-exams, that will enable you to take the FSP after the second semester. By the end of the second semester, you do these 3 or 4 exams then, depending on your German level. If you completed a C1 certificate, you will have 3 exams, otherwise you will have 4. 3 of these will be written exams, 1 will be an oral exam. So for the M and for the T course, the oral exam will be chemistry. For the W course, the oral exam will be English. And that means for students like you who already speak English at a high level, that is quite easy because the English level necessary to pass the oral exam is actually between B1 and B2. So W-Course has that benefit that if you also pass a C1 German certificate, you can focus on mathematics and economics. Each student needs to pass all parts of the FSP. Only then they will receive the FSP certificate and move on to bachelor studies at the universities. And you can retake each exam, each subject exam once only. So from our experience, those students who pass the pre-exams, however, they will also pass the FSP. So sometimes there's a student who has a blackout during the FSP exam and forgets whatever they learned, but it is very, very unlikely. Most students pass the FSP at the first attempt. Let us compare the public and the private Studienkollegs. I wrote VS, but this is not actually a competition between the public and the private Studienkollegs. The public Studienkollegs, as you can imagine, they have more than enough students, and the private Studienkollegs are basically a second option for those who don't want to take the entrance exams or those who were unable to get into a public Studienkolleg. Now, the main difference is the public Studienkollegs, the public universities as well, don't charge tuition fees or have very, very little tuition fees in some federal states. Private Studienkollegs, on the other side, they are not funded by government. They have to charge tuition fees. So there are course fees related to the private Studienkollegs. Our Studienkolleg for both semesters together charges roughly 6,500 euros, and that covers the full year with all teaching material and whatnot. The requirements: we have the competitive entrance exams at the public Studienkollegs. For the private ones like ours, you just need to pass a German B2 exam. With a B2 certificate, you are ready to enroll and register for the FSP. And the good thing is you don't need that at the moment of application. You can hand it in even after the course start. The application, usually for public Studienkollegs, you have to register through a university. That means you apply officially for a seat at the public university. When they accept you, they will redirect you to the public Studienkolleg within their federal state. So the process of application is a bit more complex. Private Studienkollegs like ours, you can just apply through our website. It takes roughly 5 minutes, and then your application is completed. Eventually, after completing Studienkolleg, no matter whether you did the public or private one, you will obtain the same certificate. Our institute, for example, we prepare the students for the external FSP conducted by Cologne government. And their certificate is recognized all over Germany. That means once you completed the FSP, you are able to study at any university in Germany, both public and private. Yeah, no matter in which federal state it is, no matter whether it's a University of Applied Sciences, a technical university, or a normal university. Some additional information that might be interesting to you. As I mentioned, a recognized C1 certificate allows students to waive the German exam of the FSP. It does, however, not exempt from the pre-exams. So our students still take part in the German classes at our institute, even though they passed the C1 level already. And that will help them both to get a better academic German, and that will also help them in the other subjects. And of course, they are specifically prepared for the pre-exams in the German classes as well. The presentation today is held by Rheinisches Studienkolleg, but we also have an associated language school, which is called Schiller Language School. We are under one roof, so the classrooms are in the same building, on the same floor. And if you don't have the German skills to pass B2 level yet, that is also no problem. We can teach from A1 level onwards, actually. We have online courses as well, so it could be done from home. And Schiller Language School is also a recognized TELC exam center. And TELC is one of the few recognized certification types that we have in Germany. So if you pass the TELC B2 or TELC C1 exam at our institute, that will enable you to enroll in our Studienkolleg course and also to waive the German part of the FSP later on, if it's a C1. We often get the question if the Studienkolleg course or the FSP can be done in English. That is unfortunately not possible. The FSP, the exam, is always held in German language. So based on that, it doesn't make sense to do the preparation in English because the exam will be held in German. Of course, the only part that is held in English is the W-Kurs English oral exam. One more information that might help you to decide which way to go. As the pre-exams happen at the start of the second semester, you could theoretically complete the full first semester online. That gives you more flexibility with traveling, getting a room, and it really is a big advantage if you are able to take part in the classes from wherever you are. We have some students who take the first month from home in the home country, then they visit someone else in the second month, and the third month they then move to Bonn, and they can switch between online mode and on-site mode at the same day. So it is really simple to shift between these two modes. The same is if you come to Bonn and you realize, okay, I have to be absent for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I have to travel, you can still attend online. And that means also if you are unable to actually be in Bonn at the start of the course, you can just come a little bit later. Here you can see our locations on the map of Germany. The star on the left side is actually Bonn, not the gray box. The gray part around it is the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia. So that is one of the bigger federal states of Germany, and Bonn was the capital until it shifted to Berlin. Nowadays, the capital of Germany is Berlin. And that means both Bonn and Berlin have a very strong infrastructure. Both are multicultural international cities. We have airports both in Berlin and Bonn. Our main campus is located in Bonn, which is, the reason why most of our students still come to the Bonn campus. And in Bonn, we have very good results with the FSP as well. So today I will focus our presentation on Campus Bonn. What makes our Studienkolleg unique compared to others? As I said, our campus in Bonn We prepare the students for the external FSP exam that is conducted by Cologne government. And our Studienkolleg since years has the highest success ratio in terms of the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia. And as I said, that certificate provided by Cologne government is recognized by all German universities. You have the online and on-site participation possible at any time, and you can choose depending on your requirements. That is usually not the case at public Studienkollegs, and I don't know many private Studienkollegs that have the ability of doing flexible courses like we do. We also have a very fast admission process. When you apply through our website online, you can actually get your admission within a few days. So that helps students to quickly register, get the papers they might need for prolonging a visa in Germany. And it is one of the advantages when you compare it to public universities and Studienkollegs, where you have to wait multiple weeks or even months until you get the actual admission. On top of that, I would say we have the perfect location in downtown Bonn, next to the River Rhine and the main shopping district. If I look out of the window, I usually see some ships driving by. I see the Bonn Opera next to our building. It's just a beautiful location, and it's very easy to reach from the dormitories that we can arrange for you as well. Here you can see our location, the River Rhine on the right side. The main metro line is running right beside our campus. And then the yellow part is a shopping district. So you can see location is really, really nice in Bonn, and you can really reach anything that you need within, let's say, 10 minutes of walking from here. For Berlin, of course, it's a bit different. Berlin is far bigger than Bonn. We have less than 400,000 citizens in Bonn, so it's still a small city, I would say. Berlin is huge, and depending on where you are staying, it can take longer to reach places such as our institute, even though we have a nice location there as well. So how does the application process work with Rheinisches Studienkolleg? As I said, it can be done digitally. The website is written here, but to make it easy for you, at the top of our presentation today, you see the yellow banner with a Register Now button. And this is just a simplified registration form. You enter your name, your email, your WhatsApp telephone number, and the major that you're interested in, and then we will guide you step by step. You don't have to outright apply. This is just to stay in touch with us, get more information. So you can just click that button for now, and if you're interested, do the application a bit later. What do you need in order to apply beside filling the form? You need to upload documents that you can do during the application process, ideally a German B2 certificate and the secondary school certificate. However, if anything of these two is not yet available, it's no problem at all. You can book the missing German courses with us. You could even, if you already completed B2, just book with your current level and then take the TELC exam with us at Campus Bonn when you arrive in Germany or in Bonn. Some students inquired, they want to apply, they need the admission, but they didn't complete secondary school yet, or they are waiting for their final certificates. Also, no problem. You can still get conditional admission from us. Just hand in your latest mark sheets or a note from your school that you are about to complete secondary school, and that will be sufficient for us to provide you with the conditional admission and reserving a seat for you for the next semester. I want to give you a brief overview about the Studienkolleg timeline. I already told you that it takes roughly 1 year from the start of Studienkolleg until you enter university. Our Studienkolleg courses start in February and August every year, and you can apply all year long. So that means you can apply now, you can apply last day of July, and you can even apply a few days after the course began in August. So we are quite flexible with that. However, the registration for the FSP exam, this needs to be done within the first months of starting the classes. So that means if you start in August, we would need to hand in the FSP registration by end of August. And the required documents are the B2 certificate as notarized copy, the secondary school certificate in its original language as notarized copy, and thirdly, a translation to German of the secondary school certificate, also as notarized copy. So these 3 documents need some time to prepare and should be handed in by end of August for the August start date. The pre-exams at start of second semester, the FSP exam will then happen at the end of the second semester. Now, let's stick with the example that you start Studienkolleg in August. Your FSP in that case would happen in April. For those who start in February, it would be November respectively. If you take the FSP exam in April, you will obtain your certificate, the FSP certificate, approximately by May or latest early June. And then you still have time to meet the official deadlines for applications at the public universities. For winter semester, that is July 15th. So you see, you still have more than 1 month to complete the applications. Usually, admissions are sent out in August, latest September, and on October 1st, you would start your studies. So it takes a little bit more than 1 year until you are actually attending your first bachelor class, but you are in the admission process in less than a year. For the application to universities, there's one more thing I want to mention. The marks that you obtained in secondary school are relevant to the degrees that you are studying. Some degrees, such as medicine, require very high marks. But also your FSP exam results will count. That means if you have lower marks in secondary school, you can actually upgrade them by getting good marks in the FSP. It also means that you should really learn a lot during the Studienkolleg year to get very good marks by the end of it. So I hope that short presentation helped you a lot. You might have heard some other presentations about the universities. We are basically a stepstone to help you to get into these universities. My colleague Katja also already answered some questions in the chat, and Anais as well, I think. You can see how long our language courses take if you want to start with these. Consider roughly 10 months for Studienkolleg afterwards if you want to study in Germany. And we also have the service of admission support if you don't know which universities to apply to or which fields. Our team can help you with that as well. So it's basically a full service program starting from your home all the way to your bachelor studies in Germany. Once more, you have the register now button on top of our presentation, but you can also write an email to us if you have any questions later on to info@studienkolleg-bonn.de. Thank you all for your attendance. And after the presentation, we want to take a look at your questions and answer these which have not been answered yet. Thank you, everyone. Okay, let me check the questions quickly. I hope you can see the questions that I'm showing right now. If a student is not fluent in German and needs urgent assistance, such as changes to the schedule, exam rescheduling, or document questions, can they contact administration in English? Are there mentors or designated contact persons who specifically assist international students? So public universities usually have English-speaking staff. Our institute, we mainly consist of international stuff, so we can cover actually a lot of different languages. We have English speaking stuff. Katja today, for example, can also help with Russian if that helps. Any questions that parents have, for example, they can also speak in Russian. And of course, we are always trying to help the students. Even if it's urgent, you can reach us on WhatsApp. You can drop an email, and we try to always react as fast as possible. What type of exam formats are used during the Feststellungsprüfung, multiple choice tests, oral exams, written essays? Can you share some common mistakes students make that lead to failure on their first attempt? Yes. So usually students need to actually write. So it's not enough to just read questions and mark them with multiple choice answers. So that means your German skills really need to be trained. Our teachers will have you write letters, emails in German from time to time to improve your academic writing. The oral exam usually is not that hard to pass. Our students are more concerned about getting highest marks, especially the M-Kurs students in medical fields. They want to be as close to 1.0, which is the 100% highest scores in Germany. So their target is to pass all FSP exams with best marks. And for that, they really need to work on their academic writing. Definitely try to get the C1 certificate in time so they don't have to do the German exam, because that's the one that is usually the hardest one to get best marks in. And then, very common mistake, and I tell that to every student who is speaking with me about our Studienkolleg, it is not enough to just be enrolled. You have to attend the classes on daily basis. We cannot help the students who are not attending, right? So from our experience, students who attend every day, they will pass the FSP, they will get good marks. Students who miss on regular basis, they will struggle even with the pre-exam. So we can say that as long as you give your best, you will also be able to pass the FSP with good marks. We are planning our child's full education path in Germany from scratch, starting with language course and Studienkolleg, followed by university admission. As parents, we want to know if this is a realistic path for a student with basic German skills and no prior experience living abroad. Does your structure, Schiller Language School and Rheinisches Studienkolleg, offer continuous support from A1 level through to university application? Who guides the students through this journey? How is continuity ensured? And can you share examples of successful cases? So actually, most of our students, they start with us without any German skills. They do the A1 and A2 levels through our online modus, and then B1, B2, and ideally also C1 in Bonn in Germany before they take the TELG B2 exam and then move on to Rheinisches Studienkolleg. So our whole process is designed in a way that students and the parents are counseled and supported from the very beginning, even without German language skills, until they reach our school here in Germany. And as I said, we have both the language school and our Studienkolleg under one roof. We have the admission department here. They are only working on making sure that the students get a university admission afterwards. Monday to Friday, our offices are here to support students and parents. They can just drop in, ask questions. But we also have the online support, like Katja. She is supporting parents and students with any questions. It's her task to answer questions. If there's any doubt, she is available by phone, by Zoom, by WhatsApp. So we can ensure through our process that students have a secure pathway. The only thing that they need to do is focus on the learning and attend the classes. That is something that we cannot provide from our side. Examples of successful cases. So we can perhaps offer that you get in touch with Katja afterwards. We have a lot of students who did exactly this pathway, and by now they are studying at universities. We're also already in working in this field since a long time. Our Studienkolleg was established more than 10 years ago, and we have a lot of students who by now already passed their bachelor, master degrees. Some of them are now medical doctors in Germany. So we have a long success story. Are there any examples of these exams available on your website? They are not available on our website if you're talking about the FSP exams, but during the first semester, the government of Cologne is providing examples to the students. So anyone who registered at the beginning of Studienkolleg, they will be provided with examples directly by government. And of course, our teachers will focus on these and explain in detail how they are solved. I'm interested in how health insurance works. Do Rheinische Studienkolleg students need to have insurance at the time of application, or is it arranged after arrival? Do you assist with selecting insurance provider if needed? So you don't need health insurance at the moment of application. I would suggest to not book that until you know when you will travel to Germany. At that point, it is sufficient to book the health insurance 1 week upfront. We have a partner provider. It's an insurance also located in Bonn called Care Concept, and we can help you to book the insurance it is also not very expensive. It is roughly 40 euros per month, and it is unlimited coverage. Once students switch from our Studienkolleg to public universities, they will also access the public health insurance system of Germany, which is great. And that will be done together with the university that they will attend at that point. Is there any academic performance monitoring during studies at Studienkolleg? How often can parents check grades? What happens if a student falls behind in their studies? So we have an online student information portal where students and parents can check the students' marks and keep up to date about the progress of the students. Of course, this needs to be clarified upfront. The student should sign that the parents are allowed to look into that website if the students are more than 18 years of age, because they are considered adults in Germany. So as long as that is available, the parents can always look into the system and see how their children are performing. Also, we are checking the attendance. Whenever students are missing, it will be marked in our system. Because, as I mentioned, regular attendance is crucial for the success in the FSP exam. Then there's the question, what happens if a student falls behind in their studies? They can, of course, always speak with us, with our team, with the teachers. If they see, okay, I can't cope with the speed, or I missed too many classes, we will find an individual solution, but it is always also possible to repeat a semester with us. So it barely happens, but if students or parents feel that there's a need to adjust, please inform us as early as possible and we'll always find a solution. If a student arrives in Bonn with only A2 or weak B1 level of German, will they realistically be able to manage everyday tasks like shopping, setting up a SIM card, visiting a pharmacy, or consulting with a bank? Do you provide a city orientation service for new arrivals during the first days? So a student on B1 level will easily be able to navigate daily life in Germany. Actually, with B1 level, they could already start working part-time in a restaurant, cafe, because the talks of that level are sufficient on B1 level. A2, they will need to get adjusted to daily life, but I'm sure shopping, SIM card pharmacy, these type of tasks, they can definitely do because they are already part of the A1 level of German, right? There are specific topics that are part of A1, and these are all focused on daily life. So that is something that parents don't need to be worried about. We also have a welcome guide that my colleague Anais, who is with us here today, designed, and it provides a lot of information about Bonn, how to arrange public transportation, what to do in our free time, and so on. We are a bit concerned about whether our child will feel comfortable socially. What is the average age of students at Rheinisches Studienkolleg? Are the groups mixed in terms of age and nationality? How do you support newcomers, especially those who are in Germany for the first time? So, a majority of our students at Studienkolleg are between 17 and 19 years because most of these students come to us either directly after secondary school completion or they first learn the language and then come to us. Sometimes we also have some older students. We even had students who are 40 years or so who decided that now is the right time to start university studies. But these are really very few cases. I would say that more than 90% are in the age group 17 to 19 years. Um, we have a nice mix in terms of gender. There are, we can say, roughly 50% female, 50% male, sometimes a bit more or less, but there is definitely a good mix. And the same is in terms of nationality. We recently, 2 weeks ago, checked where our students are from and created a list that just was prepared for social media, and we actually hit 100 different nationalities. So it's a beautiful mix. We have, of course, certain areas from which we have more students. Latin America, for example, we have students from Ecuador, Colombia, Peru, and Mexico. We have students from the Middle East, from India, Southeast Asia, sometimes Chinese students. What we do not have is a lot of European students from Western Europe, because those students from the European Union usually do not need Studienkolleg. So that needs to be kept in mind. Studienkolleg is really specifically for the students from outside European Union. Um, how do we support newcomers? Day one, we do an introduction. We explain how the next couple of weeks are going on. Of course, as I said, our offices are always open to support them. We also have um, additional services like the pickup service. We can arrange that your child or you as a student are picked up at the airport or at the central station and then brought to the accommodation that we prepared for you, right? So the accommodation placement service, we have two options. One is we will prepare an own apartment for you, um, fully uh, set up with furnitures. And the second option is you stay in a shared apartment with other students, which are either from our Studienkolleg or from our language school. So this is another way of um, socialize with other students. And from our experience, a majority of the students, within the first few days, they feel comfortable with their new surrounding, because most of the students at our school are in the same age. And that is also an advantage. We are really focused on university students. In our language classes, all of the students attending the classes, they share the same aim of studying a degree in Germany. Only difference to Studienkolleg is that sometimes we also have master students in the language classes. So those who already did a bachelor and now they want to do a master in Germany. So that really helps with the socializing because they share the same target. There's a question. Do you collaborate with specific universities? If so, do students gain any advantages when applying to those institutions after completing Studienkolleg with you? Yes, we have cooperation contract with Hochschule Nordhausen, which is a very good university in the field of engineering, computer science, but also economics and business studies. So for students who want to go directly to that university after completing our Studienkolleg, there's the option of doing an entrance exam. And students who are interested in that don't have to take part in the FSP, actually. They just take the entrance exam in Nordhausen and afterwards can pick one of the bachelor degrees they have available and start the studies. We also work with some other private universities which accept our certificate And if students want to go to these particular private universities, they also don't have to pass the FSP. That being said, our main target is to have our students pass the FSP exam, which then again will enable them to study at any public university if their marks allow, of course. Is it correct that I need to make a final decision on my field of study before applying to Studienkolleg, as this determines the course I will attend? Yes and no. So at some point, you need to lock in which course you want to attend. And that is the moment when you register for the FSP exam. At that moment, you need to tell them, okay, I want to take part in the M-Kurs exam, or I want to take part in the T-Kurs exam. That means roughly 1 month after you started the course, you have to decide if that's the right thing for you or shift. You cannot write the M-Kurs FSP and then study a degree in business science. Same with T-Kurs, you cannot complete T-Kurs, write the FSP in T-Kurs, and then go to medical studies. So you definitely have to make a final decision at some point, but it is not when you apply for Studienkolleg. You can apply for T-Kurs, and then when you reach our school, you can still say, oh, I changed my mind, I'll do the W-Kurs. That is possible. We know some students who tried preparing for the Feststellungsprüfung independently but didn't pass on the first attempt. What distinguishes your preparation? Do you only offer theoretical content, or do you include past exam simulation, practice tasks, and mock tests? So, in fact, it is not a good idea to take the FSP without attending a Studienkolleg. The failure ratio is more than 80% usually. So, keeping that in mind, and the fact that you only have one retake option, this is really, really risky. So, the main difference is we have teachers. These teachers are specialized in teaching FSP exams. We have PhD professors at our institute. Our biology teacher, for example, she has been teaching for decades at a public Studienkolleg before. And we have access, of course, to all the FSP exams that happened during the last 10 years as well. And our teachers know exactly which type of exams will happen and how to solve them, plus how to teach them to international students. So that makes a really, really big difference, and is also the reason why our students have better success at the FSP eventually. How soon after receiving an admission letter can your students apply for a visa? Do you provide a detailed visa support letter with schedules and contact information as required by German embassies? Yes. So our admission papers are actually designed to fulfill the criteria to apply for a German student visa or to extend an existing visa at the immigration office in Germany. So once the application has been completed, what we do is usually within the next working day, we check the qualification criteria. And if it's positive, we'll send out a confirmation and an invoice with the tuition fees. Once the tuition fees have been covered, we are sending out the admission. And this can actually happen within 1 week. So based on that, theoretically, if a visa should be applied for, it can happen within a few days after applying. Especially if you let us know that you have a visa date upcoming, we will do our best to make sure everything will be with you upfront. On the documents, There are our contact details. If the embassy has any requests or additional questions, they can contact us. Based on our experience, a majority of students, almost all of them, will get the visa. If they did not get the visa, it is usually some deeper issue behind it. So the visa usually is not a big problem. Also, the extension of visa in Bonn is a really smooth process. We are providing additional documents once the students are here, a letter of participation that outlines exactly how long the course is going, what is happening step by step, and the immigration office will support the students with the visa prolonging. Is it possible to apply for a long-term visa that covers both the language course and Studienkolleg phase in one application? Yes, it is. That being said, if students apply without any German language skills, it is usually not the best idea. Depending on where students apply from, having no German language skills might be a reason for a visa rejection. That is why we offer the beginner courses, A1 and A2, online based, so the students can do that from home. But other than that, you would receive a language course invitation letter from us, Studienkolleg admission, and with these two documents combined, students can apply for a student visa long term, of course, that will cover both these plus the bachelor studies afterwards. My daughter plans to study graphic design after the Studienkolleg. Which course, G, S, or W, is better suited for admission to an arts-related university program? Do you provide consultation when choosing the appropriate course? So, design and anything arts related belongs to the G course. So that would be the right choice. However, if you already know where your daughter wants to study, if she has a specific program and university in mind, I recommend to first contact the university, because some universities, they have an additional entrance exam. It is one where the artistic skills of a student are checked. Usually a portfolio needs to be handed in, maybe an entrance interview. And if they offer that, students do not need to participate in Studienkolleg at all. So just keep that in mind, and we can help, of course, with the application to universities upfront. Nevertheless, G-Course, if there should be further preparation, would still be the right choice for that. Now there is a question, does the Studienkolleg have a dormitory? I already briefly answered that. We can provide accommodation placement. The cost of living for the shared apartment, single room with furnitures, water, electricity, everything included, parents should calculate an estimate of 650 euro per month. If it's an own apartment, it could be around 800 euro per month, usually not more than that. So that will cover all the needs, Wi-Fi, water, electricity, and it is an unlimited contract. That means the students can stay there as long as they want, and based on that, also apply for citizenship in Bonn and prolong the visa in Bonn itself. There's another question concerning the accommodation placement. Is housing guaranteed for every student? How long does the placement process typically take? What are the most common living arrangements? Dormitories, apartments, host families. So we recommend to inform us as early as possible when you know the arrival date, because we usually can't find an apartment within 1 or 2 days. No, it will take longer time. I recommend to inform us ideally 4 weeks or more in advance. Usually you know a bit earlier when you travel to another country, and based on that, our team has enough time to arrange the accommodation. So if we know in advance when the travel takes place, we will also be able to find suitable accommodation. Host families, we offered that in the past, but since COVID pandemic, we no longer offer this because the host families tried to no longer host students for a while, and we also saw that students at the same time prefer to stay either in their own own apartment, or with students that they meet on daily basis. After completing Studienkolleg course, students take the Feststellungsprüfung. Who administers this exam? In your case, public universities, external examination boards, or your institution? Are the results recognized by all German universities? I think that has been answered already. So it is Cologne government. We are not doing the exam ourselves. Cologne government's exam is recognized by all German universities. Since Rheinisches Studienkolleg operates both in Berlin and Bonn, if a student begins in Bonn but must relocate for personal reasons, can they continue the course in Berlin without reapplying? How is the curriculum synchronized between the two locations? So, theoretically, it is possible to shift between Bonn and Berlin, especially after the language course. Students could decide to move to Berlin, but one thing needs to be kept in mind. The curriculum of the FSP is not the same in Berlin and in Bonn. As I mentioned, the FSP with Cologne government has 4 subjects, and in Berlin, they have 5 subjects. So Berlin is a bit more complicated. We still have students who prefer to go to Berlin because they prefer the city, or they want to study at a Berlin university afterwards. So it needs to be considered that taking the FSP is a bit harder in Berlin. We have students who live in Berlin, participate in the FSP in Cologne though, and take part in the classes online. That is also possible. So we are flexible with that. We can also help shifting between the cities, but keep in mind this discrepancy between the FSP content, right? There's a question. We're trying to understand the difference between the T-Kurs and M-Kurs if both include chemistry and physics. If a student is undecided between medicine and engineering, is it possible to start with general preparation and decide later? Can one switch between courses mid-semester? I also responded partially to that, because within the first months, you need to actually log in a course, since you have to register for the corresponding FSP exam. Now, it is true that chemistry and physics and German are both part of M-Kurs and T-Kurs, but it really depends on what students want to study later on. The subjects of the courses are not that relevant for what they want to study later. A student who took part in M-Kurs can only study in the medical field. A student who took part in the T-Kurs can only study in the technical or natural scientific field. So based on what students want to study afterwards, they have to take the decision. Of course, sometimes we also recommend to consider if the subjects of these courses fit. last week, for example, there was a family and the son wanted to study engineering desperately, but he has problems with mathematics. It's one of his weakest fields. So we have to recommend then not taking the T-Course, because both mathematics and physics are really, really heavy on mathematics. So also be realistic. Are these subjects suitable for you or your children? Think about that. And if it is, consider which major they want to study. We read on your website that the program lasts 10 months, but applications are open year-round. If a student applies in April, do they have to wait until August to begin, or are there flexible intake dates? How does this affect visa processing? So, theoretically, if they apply in April, they would join the August start date, right? But we have early start dates as well. We have one in April and one in May. These will merge eventually in August with the other group, but it gives students who are early in Germany, for example, time to do some additional language preparations. They will do a recap of B2 level, making sure that they are able to understand Studienkolleg classes, and they could even also take a B2 TELC exam if that is still necessary. So based on that, they could actually join any time. If they missed February, they could then join in April or May. And if they still missed that, August will be the next option. But the fact is that no matter when you apply, we can provide the admission within the next few days. So that is why applying all year long is possible, and we can provide the relevant documents accordingly. Here's a student who does a so-called Ausbildung in Germany as dental assistant. And she's asking, or he's asking, if a B2 certificate is required. Well, this is a more complex case. I recommend for you to write us through the Register Now button on top, and we will get back to you onto this question after the session, because I don't think that we can fully cover the topic today. What is the schedule of payment? Is it possible to pay for each semester, not for the whole year? Yes. What we are offering is that 50% are paid upfront. That will be sufficient to reserve a seat and to get the admission from our institute. So for visa purposes, the embassy also accepts that the first semester 50% is paid, and then the second semester can be paid in 4 equal installments during the first semester. So until the course starts, only the 50% are paid, and then the next 4 months, a part of the remaining 50% is paid. My daughter has not yet obtained a B2 certificate, but has already completed the corresponding level at the language school. We notice you offer the early access B2 option. Is it possible to begin studies at Rheinisches Studienkolleg under the option and take the TELC or another exam in parallel? Yes, exactly. So that is what I just mentioned. Students can join the early access B2 in April or May, and then take the TELC B2 by end of June. And that way they will have the B2 certificate at the time they have to register for the FSP. We designed these early access courses with these students in mind who either hold a B1 certificate or completed B2 but don't have a Goethe or TELC certificate yet. The April date was meant for students with B1 certificate. The May start date, actually next Monday, that one is meant for students who completed B2 but are missing the certificate. And the course will last until August 4th. By then, the students will merge with the next semester and start the other subjects, physics, chemistry, biology, etc., together. If a student fails the Feststellungsprüfung in the first attempt, what options are available? Can they stay at Rheinisches Studienkolleg and repeat the preparation course? Does this require a new application? Is there a support system for re-preparation? So, in the unlikely case that the FSP is not passed at the first attempt, the next attempt will happen exactly 6 months later. So they have time to prepare again. In that case, they can prolong for a third semester and they will prepare further for the FSP. So that way, the second attempt 6 months later will surely be passed. After completing your program, does the student automatically gain the right to apply to all public universities in Germany? Are there cases where a specific university has additional requirements after passing the Feststellungsprüfung? So we need to divide between the course completion and the FSP exam, right? Completing our course alone is not sufficient, only for some private universities. Passing the FSP exam, that is what qualifies the students to apply to all public universities. But of course, the universities, they have different requirements. And mainly it is the marks obtained during secondary school and the marks obtained during FSP. Based on that, they calculate which students they can take in. Let's take an example. There are 50 seats available for a medical degree at a specific university, but 200 students are applying. That means they will compare all students' marks and they will take those 50 with the highest marks. That is how the admission in Germany at the public universities work. Very few universities have additional requirements. Some might ask for an entrance interview. Others might ask for an internship to be done up front. That is mainly for technical degrees or architecture. But I can say that more than 90% of the universities and the degrees are just considering the marks of FSP and secondary school. How many hours per week does the course require, and what is the total time commitment to reach B2? If students start from scratch without prior language skills, it will take 34 weeks, roughly 8 months, to cover A1, A2, B1, and B2. We have 20 lessons per week during the language classes. So there is enough time to do it besides school, for example. There's also enough time to do a part-time job in Germany if necessary. And beware, at Studienkolleg, however, the hour count will increase. We will not only have 20 lessons per week, but it can be more, 25 to 30 lessons, depending on the week. Some weeks we have more because we have specific exams arriving, the pre-exams. But the language courses, they are always 20 lessons per week. What's the structure and duration of each level, A1, A2, B1, B2? Katja answered that in the chat. You can scroll down. A total of 34 weeks, that is. where these documents need to be authorized. I think that question came actually when I wrote about the FSP registration. So these can be done in the following ways. A secondary school certificate should get a stamp from the Ministry of Education, the own Ministry of Education, and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then a stamp by the German embassy or consulate. That is for the secondary school certificate. Now, the B2 certificate, much easier, the German translation as well. Notarized copies can be done in Germany at the City Council of Bonn or any notary office. So this will only take a day or two maximum. The one that needs preparation is a secondary school certificate, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, then German consulate or embassy. That's not only for us, that's for all universities in general in Germany. So this makes sense to do it as early as possible. My son is currently in the 7th grade at the Ukrainian Lyceum. He's studying English as his only foreign language. After he finishes school, we plan for him to pursue higher education in Germany. Do you offer German language courses starting from the beginner level? I think we already explained that in detail. And yes, online learning options. We have all courses that we are offering can actually be done online. However, we recommend B1, B2, and Studienkolleg courses, if possible, to take them on site. Also for the social skills to develop when the students are here. What is the cost? So for the language levels A1 to B2, it will cost roughly 4,000 euro, a bit more than 4,000 euro for the 4 levels to be completed. Whether Goethe B2 certificate is recognized, Katja also said, yes, it is. With what university do you have this own application process? I mentioned that Hochschule Nordhausen. I believe that were all questions answered. If I missed anything, please just write it now. Otherwise, thank you for your attention. It was a pleasure being with you today. Thanks to Katja and Anais to be here with me as well. And we would be happy to stay in touch with you. Drop us an email, visit our website, click the register now button if you want to stay in touch. Again, it's not an official booking if you register now. It's just to stay in touch with us.